Debating the Anthropomorphists concerning seeing God. The Anthropomorphists say Allah can be seen, but in a direction, because the existent one must necessarily be in a place and have a direction. So Allah is in a place and has a direction. They said, what is known and familiar to the human intellect is that a thing would have a limit. So Allah has a limit. So that's how weak their minds are. So if they were to say, how could one who is neither contained nor existing through what is contained be seen by the eyes? How could someone or something that's not self-contained, neither self-contained nor existing by extension of something else, be seen by the eyes? Let's add that there. Nor existing by extension of. How could, they would say, how could one who is neither self-contained nor existing by extension of what is self-contained be seen by the eyes? So the meaning of their question is, how could we see something we never saw before? We answer, seeing, according to us, does not necessitate direction, nor facing, yani turning. It only dictates the existence of what is seen. Of course, the seer also. This grants that the seer is confirmed. So a seer is confirmed, and seeing something, the seen thing, it doesn't, to be a seen thing, doesn't necessitate any direction for the seen thing, and it doesn't necessitate facing the seen thing. It only dictates the existence of what is seen, the existence of the seen thing. Dictates here doesn't mean if something exists, then it necessarily is seen. We are saying if something exists, then it possibly could be seen. Someone sent me a message as if they were objecting to me in a polite way, saying, well, you said if something exists and necessitates that it could be seen. I never even said that. And from this mistake, they built on it and asked me more. So from the beginning, they were mistaken. That makes seeing different from knowledge. What exists can be known as well as what does not exist. Yani what does not exist also can be known. But what is seen must exist. The seen is limited to existence, while the known is not limited to existence. The non-existence could also be known. So that's the difference between seeing and knowing. Also, seeing does not necessitate the connection of light rays. In this way, it is like knowledge. So seeing is like knowledge in some way, and it's unlike knowledge in another way. It's like knowledge from the perspective that seeing does not require light rays. And it's unlike knowledge from the perspective that a seen thing would only be existent, while a known thing might not be existent, or a known matter might not be existent. If it were said, do you not say that realizing something necessitates specifying what is realized? Here, instead of specifying, confirming. If it were said, do you not say that realizing something necessitates confirming what is realized? What they mean here is, do you not say that realizing something necessitates that it's in a place and a direction? That's what they mean. But the question is, don't you say that realizing something necessitates confirming what is realized? So we answer, realizing something does not necessitate that it has edges. So we're trying to bring out what they're dodging. This asker here who's asking us, he might be aware or he might lack self-awareness. Like here, when he says, when he says, don't you say that realizing something necessitates confirming it? So he could be here lacking self-awareness, that he doesn't know that he means, don't you say that realizing something necessitates that it's in a place and a direction? Or he might be aware and he wants to avoid some words because he's a wicked person. We answer, realizing something does not necessitate that it has edges. But here, to have more direct answer here, what type of realization, if someone were to ask me, I'd say, what realization do you speak of? Are you talking about knowledge? Are you talking about sight? Are you talking about hearing? Because if you're talking about knowledge, then realizing something by knowledge doesn't necessitate that what you have realized exists. But if you mean by realizing, hearing, or seeing, then it does necessitate that what's heard or is seen exists. But if you mean that the thing has edges, realizing something then realizing something doesn't necessitate that it has edges. If they say, whoever saw something can tell the difference between himself and what he saw. So how would you tell the difference between yourselves and God, the glorified and exalted? So he's saying, you believe that Allah has not a shape or form or color, and he exists without a place or a direction, and you can still see him? So how can you tell the difference between yourself and him? We answer, whatever has no direction cannot be pointed to in any direction. So that's a difference between that one and the other one that's in a direction. And whatever has no similar cannot be given an example. And whatever has no shape can be without difficulty distinguished from what has a shape. So it's easy answer, really. And we furthermore say to them, and when you see God, Yani, according to you, how do you tell the difference between him and the throne? When the throne is below him, according to you, you said he's over the throne. And you said you can see him. And you said you see him in a direction. So how do you tell the difference between him and the throne? The throne is above you and is below him. So how do you tell the difference between him and the throne? As if they say, we can see through the throne. But I don't think they're going to say that. I don't even know how he would attempt to answer that. He probably would say, we don't ask these questions. We just believe in what came in the text. We submit. So that's his brainless answer that he tries to make sound fancy and religious.
Yeah, right?
So when you see God, according to you, how do you tell the difference between him and the throne when the throne is below him and it's above you? Between himself and you, that throne is. How do you tell the difference between them? By shape and image, or by color and form? What's his answer going to be? He's probably going to say that. He's going to say, we don't delve into these things here. But according to the presentation of the information here, we're saying this in response to, in correlation to his question to us. We say to them, however, your rule is that nothing can be seen unless it is across from the one who sees. How then could God even see himself according to you, since he's not across from himself? You can't stay consistent in your own rules. And how would he see the things that are inside of other things according to that? Since according to you, seeing something requires being across from it. This person doesn't even realize that he compares God to the creations. One Wahhabi left a comment for me. He said, anyone who doesn't believe that Allah is over the throne is a kafir. So I responded to him, anyone who doesn't realize that saying Allah is over the throne by direction is a comparison between Allah and the throne in the first place is a moron, and he's a kafir. And then he believes that, I continue to say to him, and then he believes that Allah goes down to the lowest sky at night, which means the throne is over him. And he doesn't realize that he's comparing Allah to the throne by Allah being under it. So he never responded to that. They believe that you would see Allah by looking at someone across from you, by looking at someone who's in a direction from you. And at the same time, they say Allah is not like anything. So that's why they don't understand what it means to say Allah is not like the creations. One amateur Wahhabi I was talking to recently, he swear up and down, I say Allah is not like the creations. Allah is not like the creations. Allah is not like the creations. I'm trying to say to him, that's what you say, but you don't understand what that means. Because if you understood what that meant, you wouldn't be saying that Allah could have limbs. He was saying limbs. You know, a lot of them avoid that. They're a little bit sharper than this guy. So they don't want to say limb. This one was saying it. So we say to them, according to your way, Allah does not see the insides of things. And this is different from what the Muslims believe. According to Ustad Abu Ishaq, whoever saw Allah would not see anything else while seeing him. This nullifies their question. This answer of Abu Ishaq nullifies their question. But what is correct is that there is nothing to prevent seeing things that are in places and directions while seeing Allah without a place. So that answer, what he said, it answers them even if it's not the strong saying. This would not mean that he is like his creations, that you could see him without being in a place, without him being in a place. And while you see him, you could see things that are in places at the same time. This is still not comparing Allah to the creations. Wa subhanallahi wa bihamdihi. So you can see in terms of length, the debate with the anthropomorphists in this issue is much shorter than the debate with the Mu'tazila. So just here, like one page, half page here, half page on the other side. Debate with the Mu'tazila took several pages. Evidence from the Hadith that God can be seen, and that he will be seen. Al-Bukhari, Abu Dawood, Muslim, Ahmad, and others narrated that hadith by which many who did not learn go astray. إنكم سترون ربكم يوم القيامة لا تضامون في رؤيته كما ترون القمر ليلة البدر. Surely you are going to see your Lord on Judgment Day. You shall not crowd together to see him. You will have no doubt about what you saw, like you have no doubt when you see the moon on the night of the full moon. Now, if I take what's in parentheses out of the translation, then it reads, surely you are going to see your Lord on Judgment Day. You shall not crowd together to see him. Actually, let's adjust this here. This sentence, لا تضامون في رؤيته, it's a hal. The sentence is a hal. Surely you are going to see your Lord on Judgment Day without crowding together to see him. Like when you see the moon on the night of the full moon. So that's how it would read without what's in parentheses. And now we're going to explain. His saying, إِنَّكُمْ سَتَرَوْنَ رَبَّكُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. Surely you are going to see your Lord on Judgment Day. It tells when that sighting shall occur, meaning in the hereafter. Imam Abu Hanifa said in his book Al-Fiqh al-Akbar, وَاللَّهُ تَعَالَى يُرَى فِي الْآخِرَةِ وَيَرَاهُ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَهُمْ فِي الْجَنَّةِ بِأَعْيُنِ رُؤُوسِهِمْ بلا تشبيه ولا كيفية ولا كمية ولا يكون بينه وبين خلقه مسافة. Allah the Exalted is seen in the afterlife, and the believers will see him while they are in paradise, with the eyes of their heads, without any similarity, manner of being, or quantity, that means without dimensions, and there will be no distance between him and his creation. Seeing Allah is the greatest pleasure of paradise. Allah said, لِلَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا الْحُسْنَى وَزِيَادَةً. For those who did good by dying as believers, there is the reward. There is the reward of Al-Husna, which is paradise itself. That's one of the names of the garden, Al-Husna, the best. And something extra, Waziyada, something else too. The reward of paradise and something else. What addition to the pleasures of paradise could there be but seeing the Lord, the glorified? Yani, what's left besides the pleasures of the garden? It is seeing God himself. It is narrated that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam interpreted this verse as seeing the wajh of Allah, that means his self. On the other hand, the blasphemers will be deprived of seeing Allah, as mentioned in Al-Quran. كَلَّا إِنَّهُمْ عَنْ رَبِّهِمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ لَمَحْجُوبُونَ. Surely they will be veiled from seeing their Lord on that day. So just make sure you're following here. The title is Evidence from the Hadith. Now you see me here reciting an ayah. So we started with this hadith, then we started breaking it down. So we took a piece of the hadith, and we mentioned here, it tells when this sighting shall occur. And then, in service of this detail, when shall this sighting occur, we gave more details that include some ayat of the Quran, some scholarly quotes and some ayat of the Quran. So Abu Hanifa said, fil akhirah, in the afterlife. Like the Prophet said, Yawm al-Qiyamah, resurrection day. And Allah tells us, they are in paradise, they will have its pleasures and something more. That's in the afterlife. And as for the kuffar, they will not see their Lord in the afterlife. كلا إنهم عن ربهم يومئذ لمحجوبون. Surely they will be veiled from seeing their Lord on that day. Footnote. This verse degrades the blasphemers and makes it clear that Allah does not accept them. They shall be deprived of seeing Allah. Al-Bayhaqi narrated from Ash-Shafi'i that he said, since Allah prohibited them from seeing Him because of their lack of acceptance by Him, therein is a sign that the believers will see Him out of acceptance. It was narrated from the route of Sufyan ibn Uyayna that he said about this verse, if the sighting were blocked from both the allies of God's religion and his enemies, what favor would the allies have over the enemies? Meaning, the ayah is saying, they shall be deprived from seeing their Lord on that day. So he's saying, if nobody will see Allah, if no one will see Allah on that day, then what would be the point of dispraising the blasphemers here for not seeing their Lord? So it's saying, if they are dispraised because they will not be granted the honor of seeing their Lord, then this implies that the believers will see their Lord. This means that had the verse not meant that the believers will see Allah, then there would be no benefit in specifically denying that the blasphemers will see Him. As said by Az-Zajjaj, it was said that this verse means that they will be prevented from the generosity of their Lord because in this life they were not thankful for His endowments upon them. Therefore, they will be hopeless of receiving any generosity from Him in the afterlife as compensation. However, the first interpretation is most accurate because seeing Him is the greatest generosity. It is known from this that if they are prevented from seeing Him, they will be prevented from other generosities. So the hajib that's mentioned in this verse, la mahjubun, they will be veiled from seeing their Lord on that day. This hajib that's translated here as veil, linguistically is mana, a prevention. Could even mean an impossibility, a prevention, or what other words we have here? Sheikh Abdul Razzaq al-Sharif read to us that the Sheikh said about this prevention, معناه أزال عنهم حجاب المنع. It means that he will remove the veil of prevention from them. ليس معناه أنه بينهم وبين الله ستار. It does not mean that there is a cover between them and Allah. إنما معناه في الدنيا منعهم من رؤيته. It only means that in this life He prevented them from seeing Him. وَالْآنَ يُزِيلُ عَنْهُمُ الْمَنَعِ. And now, in the afterlife, He eradicates that prevention. ليس معناه هناك حائل حسي في الدنيا بين الخلق وبينه. It does not mean that in this life there is a physical barrier between the creation and Allah. لأن هذا يقتضي أن الله جسم. For that would dictate that Allah is a body. And here's another footnote where it says the hajab mentioned in the verse linguistically is mana, prevention. Footnote, someone asked Imam Malik, "Oh Abu Abdullah, وجوه يومئذ ناظرة إلى ربها ناظرة." How about we say it this way? Someone recited this verse to ask Imam Malik a question. So he said, "Oh Abu Abdullah, وجوه يومئذ ناظرة إلى ربها ناظرة. Faces on that day that will be radiant, seeing their Lord. Does this mean that the believers will see Allah? That's what the person is asking Imam Malik. So Imam Malik said, yes, with these two eyes. But Malik means his immortal eyes in the afterlife, not these mortal eyes in the dunya. The person said, some people say that Nazirah means awaiting the reward of their Lord. Malik said, no, it means seeing their Lord. Have you not heard the saying of Musa reported in the Quran? Rabbi arini anzur ilayk. My Lord, show me yourself so that I may see you. Malik said, do you think that Musa asked for an impossibility? Allah said, قَالَ لَن تَرَانِي. You will not see me. It means in the dunya life, because it is the abode of annihilation. However, when they arrive in the abode of everlastingness, then with that which is everlasting, they will see what is everlasting. Meaning, with their everlasting, their immortal eyes, they shall see the everlasting God. Allah said, Malik continued to say, Allah said, كَلَّا إِنَّهُمْ عَنْ رَبِّهِمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ لَمَحْجُوبُونَ. Surely they will be veiled from seeing their Lord on that day. And the Prophet saying, لا تضامون في رؤيته. You can read it with a dhamma or fatha. I read it the first time with fatha. لا تضامون في رؤيته. You shall not crowd together to see him. Yani, not crowding together to see him. That part is the hal in the sentence. We extracted it from the hadith. This excerpt is itself a hal, grammatically. If we want to try to recognize that in the translation, we can just say here, ellipses, not crowding together. This part of the hadith is clarified by the statements of the scholars. So then we have statements of the scholars that clarify what the Prophet said here. Not crowding together to see him. And Nasafi said, فَيُرَى لَا فِي مَكَانٍ وَلَا عَلَى جِهَةٍ مِّن مُقَابَلَةٍ أَوْ اتصال شُعَاعٍ أَوْ ثُبُوتِ مَسَافَةٍ بَيْنَ الرَّائِي وَبَيْنَ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى. He will be seen without a place or an opposing direction, and without connection of light rays or establishment of direction between the seer and Allah the Exalted. Yani, this statement of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam here, لا تضامون في رؤيته, it is one of his statements that means that Allah exists without a place. If you ask a Wahhabi, what does it mean that they see Allah without crowding together to see him? Allah knows what they're going to say. They might resort back to that statement that they think is religiousness. When they say, oh, we don't ask about these things. We just believe in them and obey. So anytime something doesn't make sense according to them, meaning anytime anything they say doesn't make sense, and then we ask them, how do you explain this? They're not going to even try to explain it. They're going to say, we just believe in it. We don't argue with the messenger. Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And his saying, alayhi salatu wassalam, كَمَا تَرَوْنَ الْقَمَرَ لَيْلَةَ الْبَدْرِ. You shall have no doubt about what you saw, like you have no doubt when you see the moon on the night of the full moon. This is not a comparison of the seen moon to the seen God. It does not mean that the people will see Allah in a circular form. It compares the certainty of seeing the full moon on a clear night to the certainty of seeing God, who has no similar whatsoever. Like when we said a few lines up or page up. If you saw someone who has no shape and no form, then it's going to be clear what you are seeing. There's no confusion in if you saw the one who has no shape and no form. If you saw the one that you can't point to in a direction, then you're going to know the difference between that one and something else. It refers to having no doubt. This comparison here refers to having no doubt. The believers will see that he does not resemble anything, so of course there would not be any doubt that the one whom they saw was Allah. This hadith is mashhur, so it is proof in the matters of the creed. At-Tahawi said, وكل ما جاء في ذلك من الحديث الصحيح عن الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم فهو كما قال ومعناه على ما أراد. And all that was narrated in this matter in the authentic hadith from the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam is as he said, and its meaning is as he meant. وَسُبْحَانَ اللَّهِ وَبِحَمْدِهِ. The Prophet seeing his Lord during the night ascension. As for the matter of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam seeing his Lord on the night of Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj, most of the scholars say that this took place. That the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam indeed saw his Lord. At-Tabarani narrated in Al-Mu'jam al-Awsat with a strong chain, as said by Hafiz ibn Hajar, from the route of Ibn Abbas, may Allah accept his and his father's deeds, Muhammad saw his Lord twice. Also, Ibn Khuzaymah narrated with a strong chain that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw his Lord. So we need to see, where did Hafiz ibn Hajar deem this chain strong? Is that in Fathul Bari or in one of his other books? As for Ibn Khuzaymah, what's the name of Ibn Khuzaymah's book anyway, or at least famously? Who knows? What do you call the book of Ibn Khuzaymah? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's Sahih ibn Khuzaymah, so it means it's Sahih. That's the third most authentic hadith book after Bukhari and Muslim. However, they differed about with what he saw his Lord. Ahlul Sunnah, not the Sahaba, Ahlul Sunnah. Yani, the scholars. They here refers to the scholars. They differed about with what he saw his Lord, his eyes or his heart. The second saying is the reliable saying. Allah gave the Prophet's heart, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the power of sight. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not see Allah with his eyes because Allah did not will for that. This second saying complies with some narrations from some companions like Abu Dhar. Yani Abu Dhar agrees with Ibn Abbas. Muslim narrated from the route of Abu al-Aliyah, from the route of Ibn Abbas, about the saying of Allah the Exalted, about the tafsir, the interpretation of this ayah. ما كذب الفؤاد ما رأى أفتمارونه على ما يرى وَلَقَدْ رَآهُ نَزْلَةً أُخْرَى. That's 3 ayahs. Doesn't have here where Surah An-Najm. Let me grab the ayah. ما كذب الفؤاد ما رأى. Ayah 11. أفتمارونه على ما يرى. Ayah 12. وَلَقَدْ رَآهُ نَزْلَةً أُخْرَى. Ayah 13. So 11 through 13. The heart did not lie about what it saw. Do you debate with him about what he sees? And he saw him a second time. Ibn Abbas said, he saw his Lord with his heart twice. Yani, that's his interpretation of the ayah. And this ayah has another interpretation. Some said refers to Gabriel. He did see Gabriel twice. That's true. He saw Gabriel twice. He saw him a second time. Because the first time he saw him, he fainted, if you remember. And then the second time he saw him was on this night. So according to a tafsir, that's Gabriel. And according to a tafsir, that's that he saw Allah twice. Notice, in Ihya Ulumuddin, Al-Ghazali said, what is correct is that the Prophet ﷺ did not see his Lord on the night of the Ascension. The Shaykh thinks well of him, of Al-Ghazali, by saying that what he means is that the Prophet ﷺ did not see Allah with his eyes. He's saying, Al-Ghazali said the statement here, it means that the Prophet didn't see Allah with his eyes. But the way he said it was, he didn't see Allah. So explaining his statement that he didn't see Allah as he didn't see him with his eyes, that's thinking well of Al-Ghazali. Because that's saying, he really says the right thing. It's just the way he worded it would give you the impression that he's saying something that's not right. Because it is not confirmed that the Prophet ﷺ said, I saw him with my eyes. Nor is it confirmed from any of the companions, their followers, or the followers of their followers, yani, the successors of the Sahaba, or the followers of their successors, or the successors. It is not confirmed from any of the companions, their successors, or the followers of the successors that the Prophet ﷺ said so. So, the difference of opinion about whether the Prophet saw Allah with his heart or his eyes is not from the Sahaba. The difference about whether he saw Allah or not, that's from the Sahaba, not whether he saw Allah with his heart or his eyes. And those who said he didn't see Allah with his, he didn't see Allah, those who said he didn't see Allah, it's possible to think well of them also. Like we think well of Al-Ghazali here, that what they meant was with his eyes. He didn't see his Lord with his eyes. Meaning he did see his Lord, but with his heart, not with his eyes. And among those who said this is Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. That it is possible to take this denial as something in particular. Yani, I think it's clear what I'm saying to you. So the denial itself is open to say he didn't see his Lord. So there's nothing restricted here. But some scholars said, no, there's nothing restricted here, but they mean the restriction though. And they do believe that Allah was seen by the Prophet, by the Prophet's heart. or that it's possible to explain their statement that way. Not necessarily that they're saying they believed it, but they're saying it's possible to explain their statement in this way. If that's how to explain their statement, there's no difference in opinion among the Sahaba then. But if we take the statements at face value, then there is a difference in opinion in the Aqidah amongst the Sahaba. Then it's going to be a difference in a branch, not a fundamental. The fundamental here is seeing God. They don't deny that God can be seen. The branch is whether the Prophet saw him or not. And it appears that they differed here. As for the difference between saying he saw his Lord with his heart or his eyes, this came later, not from the Sahaba. So then the saying of him seeing his Lord with his eyes is disregarded, actually. We're only mentioning it as a fact, as a matter of fact, and not that it has any credence. So then there are three sayings. The strong saying is that he saw his Lord with his heart on that night. The weaker saying is that he did not see his Lord on that night. And this weaker saying, it's possible to interpret it as he did not see his Lord with his eyes on that night. And then it won't be against the first saying. Because when you say he didn't see him with his eyes, that implies that he saw him still. Because there's no point to say with the eyes if there's no seeing at all. Isn't that the lesson we learned in this very chapter? What did Allah say to Musa when Musa requested to see his Lord? Allah revealed to him, "Lan tarani," you will not see me. This statement in itself proves that Allah can be seen. Because he didn't say, I am not seen. There's no point in restricting that to Moses. If no one can see him, there's no point in saying, you won't see me, Moses. If no one can see him. Then he'd say, I am not seen. Same thing here. Some of them said he didn't see his Lord. It looks like a straight out denial. But some said this means with his eyes. So if you say that they're saying he didn't see his Lord with his eyes, then this itself implies that he saw his Lord. Because no point to say with his eyes if he didn't see him at all. So it is not confirmed from any of the companions, their successors, or the followers of the successors that the Prophet ﷺ said he saw his Lord with his eyes. Al-Ghazali relied on a narration of Aisha that she said that the Prophet ﷺ did not see his Lord on that night. It is better to say that what she meant was that the Prophet ﷺ did not see Allah with his eyes. Saying that the Prophet ﷺ did not see Allah with his eyes, rather he saw him with his heart, is better than negating the matter. Saying that the Prophet ﷺ did not see Allah on that night. وَسُبْحَانَ اللَّهِ وَبِحَمْدِهِ. Seeing God in a dream. If someone claims to have seen Allah in a dream, we would not say this is blasphemy. Unless he says he saw a body that really was him, then it's blasphemy. If he claims that he saw Allah in his dream and did not see a body, then this is not blasphemy. And it is reported about several from the Salaf, including Imam Ahmad, that they saw Allah in their dream. It was reported about Ahmad that he said, I saw my Lord in my dream. And he said, I said to my Lord, what is the way to you? So his Lord said to him, my speech, O Ahmad. So Ahmed said to him, with understanding or without understanding? So his Lord said to him, with understanding or without understanding. That means even without understanding, this is the way to me. Now, if this one who saw a dream or claims that he saw a dream says that he saw Allah in a form, so let's say he saw a dream. So if he says he saw Allah in a form, but he knows and believes that Allah is not someone who has a form, then this is still not blasphemy. And his dream has an interpretation. Because you see in the dream something that doesn't look like it's reality. That doesn't appear as per its reality, let me say. You'd see your mother in your dream, for example, or someone else looks completely different. You might see your uncle in your dream looks like Sheikh Abdullah, for example, or something like that. وَسُبْحَانَ اللَّهِ وَبِحَمْدِهِ